This is our town.
Welcome!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 217 of ValueTown. I'm ChanmanV, and we've got our friend Raven here, back from overseas and everything else you've been doing. How you been, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been busy. Glad to be home for a week or so.
Yeah.
But I've been pretty much living in Taiwan for the past 4 weeks, getting GM side, of course, and casting that. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm heading back next week to do the rest of the week, to do the rest of the season. But glad to be home, for a little bit, just to be in your own house. You know the drill, right?
Yeah. So how is it living out in Taiwan? Because I've definitely heard great things about Taiwan. I've heard. I've heard great things. So, what's it like living, eating, all that good stuff out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I spend a lot of time just in my apartment that I've got over there. They've got for me over there because I've got a high-end PC. The internet's fine. So, and a lot of my work within the week is revolved around just catching up on VODs of all the other regions and stuff because there's so much Hearthstone to watch, obviously. But yeah, I like the food. I'm lucky enough to like almost every food that I've ever tried.
Nice.
So that's kind of nice. I'm very adaptable in terms of food. It's definitely different, which is fun. I'm trying to pick up bits of language, but I suck at it. So, but yeah, it's definitely different. It's too hot for me though, way too hot.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow.
I guess it's really humid and really hot, but two things I don't really like. So
I'm used to that in Florida.
Yeah, right. So that's a downside, but everywhere's air conditioning, the apartments and stuff. So it's definitely cool working on GM though. And APAC is always, or at least for me, has always been a very interesting region because it's been the region outside of China that we've historically not really known enough about the players or had a lot of information or one-on-one time with the players. So it's definitely been fun on that side.
Yeah. Well, it's weird not seeing you at Vegas. That was it's obviously having a big event without you guys is obviously a little strange. But we're gonna be talking about Vegas, of course. We'll be talking about Wing 5 of Dalaran, the heist, the adventure mode, since we covered 4 because the Wing 5 came out literally the day after we had the last show. So we'll touch on that meta, of course, and then Q&A at the end. Save your questions for the end. We've got one email one, and we're going to talk a little bit about team fight tactics and Dota Underlords too. So, no, we're not going to spend much time on in this Hearthstone podcast talking about that. But I figured we talk about that just because that's obviously a big topic, and a lot of Hearthstone streamers were playing that as well.
I mean, well, okay, I'll cover it.
We'll save it for the end. We'll save it for the end. Okay, so going to kick things off. Yeah, I guess our week in Hearthstone. Yeah, I guess you kind of covered it. For me, I pretty much just been I've actually playing a little bit of ladder. Like I hadn't played ladder in a while actually, so it was good trying to catch up with some of the meta decks and playing some of the rogue. Like gonna definitely talk a little bit about like the hook tusk rogue, which is a new one that's out there now, which is pretty cool. But Control Warrior's back. Aggro's just generally back, so Control Warrior obviously comes back when that happens. But we'll talk about that more. But let's just jump right into Vegas. We had the big GM event. Obviously, you've been covering GM over in APAC.
Yep.
But this is the big the big event that's in the US or in NA. The Americas. So they had the tournament there. Lots of people were there. Lots of mixture of GM and non-GM, and it's a pretty cool storyline. Seeing like the GMs, how they're going to perform versus the non-GMs. Because in the very beginning when GM was picked, there's definitely a lot of people who had questions about who was picked for GM ver's not.
So, turns out on average they're all right.
Yeah,
pretty good Hearthstone players.
Pretty good. Yeah. So we had definitely a great tournament. Congrats to spoilers, guys. Give you like 5 seconds. Congrats to Dog for winning the whole thing. Yeah. I don't think they could have asked for a better person to win this tournament, just quite frankly, in terms of exposure and just interest. I think the viewership got up to like 60 or 70,000. I think when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I'm going to just throw a number out here, but on average, when I glanced at it throughout the whole tournament, 40K, 50K was just a number. You know, it was just you've got to say, so first off, drops obviously help with that. They were like, if you watch for a certain amount of hours, you got packs. But so what? Like, people are saying, oh, it only gets viewers because of this.
Yeah,
but
it's like,
we're probably still watching it, you know, like
what do you expect us to do? Not try? I mean, it's like,
sorry, we'll take those free packs back.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people have been blowing my mind recently with weird thoughts, but I will say that overall, I think location. You start to see that location is quite important for a tournament like this. Like it being in Vegas, obviously I wasn't there, but everyone I saw there seemed to have a great time. They were hyped that it was in a hotel in Vegas. Yeah, well, they went and enjoyed what Vegas is, right? And whether you like that or not, there was a certain hype level of it's this big, high stakes, high money tournament happening in a Vegas hotel. Like, that's pretty cool. Whether you like Vegas or not, that's just pretty cool, one way or the other. But yeah, it was a pretty nuts tournament. There was a slight issue with Battlefy, and by slight I mean an issue that shouldn't have happened.
Go into that a little bit, because I was like out on the beach with my family this weekend, so I didn't actually catch the Battlefy issues when I was watching it. So what happened there actually?
So without going into anything super in depth, because I don't know about technicalities of how the site works or whatever, but basically what happened was before, the way submission works for decks, you could submit almost like a week early if you wanted to, but you could keep resubmitting lists. And the way they did it was, so this is correct. This is just the rules, right?
Okay.
I could submit the day before submission deadline. But then the morning of submission deadline, as long as it was before the deadline,
right, you could change it.
And your latest list is used, right? That's just
makes sense. Sure.
The issue was before submission ended, it got leaked, or you could access it through the API or whatever. The classes of everyone who had submitted so far and what everyone had locked in.
Brutal.
So people changed lists. So for example, as far as I'm aware, Dog was playing Warrior.
Yeah, and then because he's played Warrior all season long, so it was completely different that he changed Mage.
And then he changed to Mage, right? The one thing I'll say is, this sounded like a Battlefy issue. They sort of had a weird thing where they tweeted that, oh, it wasn't really impacted. It's like, but it just was because people changed lists. Like,
what do you mean?
You can't say it wasn't impacted the tournament because it just was. It happened. So that definitely sucks. People were very, very upset. Understandably so, but I think overall it wasn't a gigantic impact. It sucked that it happened. It should never happen, but it wasn't like the whole tournament's ruined now. You know, I think.
So you don't think it invalidated it at all? Like people don't feel that way. At least.
Well, you still had to play versus a field of up to 300 people.
Yeah, you still had to beat them all.
You still had to win. You still had to go nuts in the Swiss. The extra rounds of Swiss were cool. You know, Dog played well. So you can't really take that away from him. But yeah, it was a shame that there was like that black mark on what I thought was a very cool tournament overall.
Yeah.
I thought everything around the tournament and involving the tournament, except for that and a couple of other small things, were really good. And if this trend continues into Seoul and then into Bucharest, which got announced the other day, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
But the European one is in Bucharest, which is a great place. Then if this is the trend outside of the obvious Battlefy issue, these tournaments are pretty cool. It felt like old school big major Hearthstone tournaments. You know, like the old DreamHacks when there was only like 3 a year. And it was like, wow, everyone is at this DreamHack. Like everyone.
Yeah, and everyone's
That's
in
how I felt about
one
this.
room too. Yeah, exactly.
You look at the competitor list and you're like, oh, like everyone's here. It's insane. It's a tournament that top pros as well as names you'll know less about, but the fact they qualified means something. It's not just, you know, my mate's dog's brothers turned up to just play a game of Hearthstone or something like that. You know, it's like these are all good Hearthstone players. They've all turned up in this place to play this big LAN over the course of multiple days. Like, it felt old school and like the sort of hype for the old DreamHacks. It's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely good. And then of course, like I think Dog finally winning one, you know, not finishing second
at last.
Or I mean, he's had a string of just really disappointing finishes. I mean, not disappointing meaning like he's definitely gotten seconds and things like that.
He just misses out.
Yeah, he's just never won. And you know, I think there's always been that a little bit of a stigma like following him too, because Dog's more known for as being a streamer, but he's
Always the
always
bridesmaid.
been but he's always been legitimately a competitor in the Hearthstone esports space. So I think that this helps solidify that, and I mean it makes him like a full I mean he's like everything. I mean Dog is a full out pro player, top streamer. I mean he's basically,
and he's good looking too.
Yeah, he's good looking. I mean, it's like the guy's got everything, seriously. So he's got an amazing name too, Dog. I mean that's like the formula for obviously being successful in our space. So yeah, I mean having Dog won, I mean obviously couldn't happen to a nicer guy, and he played really, really well too, and his deck, his mage deck had the deranged doctor, which everybody was calling him Dr. Dog and all this stuff throughout the entire tournament.
Funny because he is actually he was training to be a doctor as well.
He was training to be a doctor too, so they had that whole storyline, which was funny. But yeah, his mage was definitely a little bit different. I mean, that was like the biggest card that was different, but it made a huge difference. I mean, a couple of those deranged doctor plays ended up saving his game, at the end of the tournament. He credits that to Frozen. I think Frozen was the one that suggested putting it in, which is his practice partner and obviously teammate. So, really, really cool to see that. And again, Dog winning is, I mean, that's just good for Grandmasters, anything, so.
Yeah. And also as well, just to throw out a few other names, there were a lot of Grandmasters in the top cut, and in like the top end of that made it to the last day, and everything. So the Grandmasters overall, put on a performance, because they could have just sucked. Yeah, it would have looked less good if like no Grandmasters made top 8. Like Fino did very well again. I think at one point throughout GM plus this tournament, Fino was 10-0. He went 2-0 in Swiss rounds or 3-0 in Swiss rounds.
Yeah.
So that with his GM, because he's not lost a match in GM yet, he was like fucking 10 or 11-0 in competitive matches this year in this year's circuit, which is insane. Some of the Korean players did well as well. I think Dawn was up there too for a long time in the tournament. Ooh. So yeah, it was Dawn.
Dawn, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the GMs showed up. It was actually pretty impressive.
For sure, and Tom, Tom got far again, and playing Dog. I mean, Dog had to play Tom and Gallon at the end. I mean, both really, really great players. So, gosh, that finals, man, the Gallon, I still a little bit what ifs for Gallon. Like I think he gave a game away, like in game 2 there with the ice barrier.
What's interesting is So I don't know how deep they've gone in terms of how they're doing the post second season relegation or not for next year and so on. Mm-hmm. But look, say relegation was a thing now, right? Say season 2 people were out. Well, Doug won, who's already in GM, right? Yeah. Gallon got up there, which means Gallon now is one of the highest earners in the Americas region, which means he would be up for qualification into Grandmasters. So you start to look the kind of stakes that are involved in these tournaments and how important it is, because it's split by region as well. You've got to look at, well, Tom's already up there and did well. So who was the next Asia Pacific player who, scored a good amount of money, and so on, so on. So it starts to get hype, and it's not all about just who won. It's about everyone else, where they placed, how much money they got, and so on. So it's going to be pretty cool.
We almost need that type of ranking, prize money ranking somewhere as well, so that we could see that on this esports page. Kudos to Blizzard for, the esport page is finally looking like an esport.
It's coming together, right?
Finally. So, that's just one extra request here, is just to maybe have a prize ranking. That'd be nice to be able to keep up with that. So. Yes, again, here's Dog's list. I'm kind of just showing you real quick. I mean, we've seen a lot of these different things from the mages, but go ahead.
So the big, I guess, for a verbal breakdown, so a big deal for this mage list is, if you imagine Cyclone Mage without the Cyclone package and the spell, so it's more Freeze Mage, but it runs the Giants, Rabble Bouncers and Astromancers, as well as Archmage Antonidas. So you still have great targets for Conjurer's Con, except it runs double Doomsayer, the Frost Novas, even a Keysmith in there as well. But also the Pocket Galaxy.
Yeah, that was huge.
Lord. Like,
oh my God.
That card.
Yeah.
You make that 5 mana investment. I kind of like, I was talking about these cards the other day on stream. Pocket Galaxy and Shark, Spirit of the Shark, should I say. And I really like those style of cards where it's a large mana investment, but then the payoff becomes like, whoa, okay, this is worth. Like, I've had games where I've just played a 5 mana do nothing turn as mage, but then my following turns are spicy, and
it's crazy, especially if you get if you get Antonidas for one. Don't even get Antonidas for one very often, to be honest, like at the end. So we didn't actually get to see Pocket Galaxy at it.
Zero cost Mountain Giants?
Yep, zero cost.
It's insane.
Yeah, we saw some of those. We definitely saw
Caligos, one cost Alex. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Deck's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, just the dynamic of the mage against, just like the warriors, and I mean, mostly the warriors, I think was the most fascinating dynamic, because one of the reasons why he said that Doc said that the deranged doctor made sense is just because warriors would just beat him down, and it was just like really amazing, like
how you play that matchup.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what you would think, where the mage would be dictating tempo just with those big conjure plays. So I don't know. It was very, watching the play, towards the end of the tournament actually, was eye opening. Doc played super well at the end. Like playing around the double BGHs, and I mean, there are definitely some difficult situations he navigated through, and gave himself the best chance to win. Like, again, Gallon, definitely left one match on the table. He should have won game 2. He like triggered Iceberry when he didn't have to, and then 2 bombs came up like literally the very next turn, and he would have won. That was.
I will say as well, shout out to Hypno. I thought he did very well. He like aced the Swift,
yep.
and then his play was very solid. Like, people might not have heard of him much, but go back and watch some of the matches, because he was actually a very solid player.
Yeah.
But I think as well, when you talk about the mage versus warrior matchup, I think this is something that Specialist has kind of sparked a little bit more, is really getting in deep into how you play specific matchups. Because it's one thing I've been enjoying about GM is, yes, there might be only 4 classes played any given week, right? But at least in APAC, we've seen days that are like warrior mage, warrior mirror, warrior hunter, warrior rogue, and it's like, wow, we get to see warrior and all the important matchups get played out by pros,
right?
And it's kind of cool. Instead of like, say, Conquest, it's like, well, what does this deck hit this time? And it's very like watered down. Whereas this is like, okay, you see how mage does against all these different matchups. You see how the warrior does against these different matchups, and it feels like players are really diving into specific card choices, how they're building their secondary and tertiary decks are improving a lot, instead of going, here's my anti-rogue deck, here's my anti-mage deck. But yeah, I think watching these matchups and getting really deep into how they're played and how you deck build for them is actually a bonus of Specialists that not many people talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I still have, I'm still critical of Specialists for sure. But for, this tournament went super well. I mean, Specialists was on display, like during this tournament. And I think like the current meta, at least the top end of the meta, isn't very singular at this point. Like there's at least a few classes that are pretty good, and we're able to see like just not mirror matchups all the time. So that type of possibility is still there, but just to give credit to Specialists, Specialists has a best of 3 type of format. I mean, it has been looking good with the 5, like the 5 card swaps for the secondary and tertiary decks. I think that's been very, very big. It's allowed decks to be able to counter full counters, like just certain classes, just the best deck of each class, there are counters to each other. So I think the 5 cards have allowed for them to be able to significantly, change the matchup. And I think that's been huge. That's what's made Specialists more viable. And like, you're right. I think this tournament, it really allowed you to really see the Specialist element. No, the actual,
appreciate it at least.
Yeah. The really just how much of an expert they are, right, at playing the specific deck, and allows you to be able to do that, because since you don't have to focus on so many classes. So
and about 1,000 different matchups.
Yeah, exactly. So I was definitely a huge proponent of changing it after this event, but I'm almost positive they're not going to change anything after this event, given how well it went. So anyway, Specialist kind of moves on, and And I think that I think it'll probably be fine, just as long as the meta keeps changing. Like as long as they keep updating, buffing things, and the new expansion is going to come out in roughly a month and a half, right? And so that's going to change up things too. So specialists will, I think, will be probably make it to the end of the year, and it will be fine. But yeah, I know the players enjoy it right now. I mean, for sure, specialists and this type of thing is more fun to play, I think, than it is necessarily to watch. But even watching, I felt like was entertaining. It was definitely not detrimental.
I think as a viewer, the biggest thing is the best of three element.
Yeah,
like you could watch a lot of cool stuff. Like in Vegas, there was like the main match and up to say 2-3 different chunks of other matches you can watch, or whole matches sometimes. And it was like, wow, this is better for even me, whose job it is, and I enjoy watching hours and hours of Hearthstone. I would rather watch more matches instead of less matches in the same amount of hours, right? And that was the big thing for me. It's like one series used to be 2.5 hours. Now you can watch like 2.5 series at times. So it's pretty cool. You just get to see more players, get to see more matches, more results, and so on. Like,
especially in a tournament where so many players, notable players, are there. You just want to see more of them and get a chance for them to get some airtime. So yeah, definitely really cool. But we kind of move on from there. A lot of people have been already talking about Korea, and that's the next stop, right? Korea's the next one.
It is Seoul,
yeah. So that's going to be in a few months, I think, right?
It is, yeah. It's just before August, I think.
Yep, just before August.
Or early August, but just a small thing as well. The esports bundle, or whatever it was officially called, added to the prize pool.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
It also meant that every single player who went, as in qualified and turned up, got $500 minimum. Which, you know what?
That's nice.
Well, at worst, probably pays for all, if not most, of your flights.
Yeah.
At worst, it's not so bad, right?
I mean, if you live in the U.S., I'd be so
even better,
I'd
right?
Be shocked if it doesn't. If you live overseas, obviously that's a different. But yeah, I mean, how much did it actually add? Because Dog won just over 100. It doubled it.
It didn't double it for every player.
Yeah.
But what happened was the overall prize pool was doubled to $500,000, right? So it's 250K, then 250K from the bundle. But I don't quote me on this because I'm not 100%, but I believe what happened was the money from the bundle prize pool was made the spread a bit more wide for the tournament earnings, because Dog did not get double his first place prize, right? He did not get 200K as his first. It's like one.
I mean, he got like a few $100 over 100,000. I mean, it wasn't much. Yeah.
Right. But I think the extra money spread the prize pool down further the line, which I'm actually a fan of.
I mean, it basically meant like the second half of the players got money. Like that's what it
exactly. Yeah. And it's like you could complain that you first place, but you got first place. Be quiet. You got plenty of money for that. So, but yeah, I think that's pretty nice. And as far as I'm aware, they're doing the same for Seoul. They're doing the same for Bucharest as well. So that's pretty nice. It just means overall that there's just a bit more money in the tank for all the players that qualify.
Wow, who knew that crowdfunding would be so effective?
Mind blowing, isn't it? No one saw that coming.
Compendiums haven't been around for 5 years, 6 years now. So making millions of dollars. It's about time we made some money from this. So yeah, it's great to finally see that in action. And this is not going to ever change. They're going to keep doing this forever now. So really cool.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Why would they not want to do it again?
Absolutely. Okay, well, why don't we move on and talk about let's talk about the Dalaran, the Wing 5, the Kirin Tor Citadel. I know you haven't played too much of the expansion, but we covered the first 4 on our previous episodes, and figured we kind of finish off with the last wing, which is the bigger wing. For those of you who didn't know, there's actually 12. You have to actually defeat 12 bosses to complete the Citadel, and a Paladin and Warlock were unlocked as well. But so my experience, oh man, I'll tell you one thing, Raven. When you lose in this wing, it feels so much worse because there's an extra 4 bosses to have to go through.
Right. Okay.
Oh, so like when I've lost, the first time I did, I lost 3 times on Khadgar, because Khadgar, like The
Are the
first time you,
bosses fixed?
I mean, they're not. What do you mean by fixed? What do you mean by that?
It's the same
Oh, it's the same.
bosses.
I don't think they're.
Or
It's
it's
not the
the
same
same.
order. I don't believe.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
Khadgar's always at the end. Khadgar's definitely at the
Right.
end.
Khadgar's the
Yeah.
final boss. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody in the chat, but I don't believe like the last few are set.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's supposed to be all the mages, kind of, because you're in
Right,
Citadel,
right.
right? The whole thing. But yeah, Khadgar, like his abilities, he never runs out of cards. I mean, I kept getting into the situation where I'd have an empty draw, like one of my turns in the early turns would be empty. They have a mana advantage over you too, and then Khadgar can get to the point where he can just like cast spells for like nothing too. So there's
Right.
this
So you just lose.
synergy, like that he can have that ends up being crazy tough. So it's a little bit of a roll of the dice once you get Khadgar, which kind of sucks, to be honest, because I haven't felt like a lot of the bosses have been like that, but Khadgar feels like the old school, like,
If it happens, it
if you
happens.
get super unlucky, you're just screwed, and man, you had to fight 11 bosses to get there, so it
Yeah.
doesn't have a great feeling at the end.
It was my worry originally because when I found out this was coming out, I was initially quite excited because have you played Slay the Spire?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I just foresaw Slay the Spire. I was like, yes, finally Hearthstone's going Slay the Spire. This is perfect.
Yeah.
But then I played it and was like, oh, okay. So I only played the first few bosses, first wing or whatever. So I admit I do not have the full knowledge of what's going on in the rest of it. But the problem I've had with Hearthstone PvE content, at least, is the AI just doesn't get there.
Yeah.
Whenever I lose, it feels like it's because, the AI just decided to draw or do this time.
Yeah.
If I'll reload it, play the same. And if they just decide to not do that this time, I'll win. So there was I've not done anything different. I've not outplayed anything, right? It's just decided whether it drew or did this thing. And that's put me off a little bit. I'll ask you a question, though, since you've played way more of this than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because this isn't linked to card releases, it's just PvE content. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth it? Do you think this expansion was a good one for that?
Do you think it's worth buying? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, for
do you
sure
think
it's worth buying because you
Okay.
get all the packs and you get your money's worth without even having the content. So that was first off. The value's always been there. So if you were to buy packs by itself and buy the skins and all that stuff, you'd spend the same amount of money. So for sure it's worth it because for me, I just think of the content as being free. That's how I think of it.
Like you're buying the packs you would get anyway with that money,
Mm-hmm.
so it works out in the end. Okay.
Yeah. So it ends up working out. I mean, I get what you're saying though. I think that for the most part, it's still dungeon run with similar qualities that we've seen before from adventure mode. I mean, there is the element. I mean, definitely new concepts that they've implemented here. With the unlocking of hero powers, the unlocking of decks, and you don't really feel the benefits of that until you play heroic because normal's just too easy. I mean, normal you can just be with the basic stuff. If you just know what's coming and that sort of thing. So I think heroic, you can utilize it a bit more, but it's not any different though. You're right because they're not going to spend much time trying to write a really great AI, which I don't know. I mean, they could spend a little bit more time and try to make something a bit better, but for me, I think
that's what blew my mind.
Yeah.
If they basically throughout a year cycle, or maybe throughout the rest of Hearthstone's life, or however often they would want to do it, if they just had an ongoing like Slay the Spire-esque thing that just carried on, they added bosses, they added items or hero powers or levels or cards, and you would pay to like unlock expansions to that one overall game mode.
Yeah,
I'm in. Like that would they'd get me.
I thought
then.
that's what they were going to do with the original.
Yeah, me
Dungeon
too.
Run,
Me too.
Dungeon Run just be permanent, and
I was like, they can just add bosses.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
They just add bosses, add cards.
Exactly.
Like this would be great, and they're like, oh no, we're not doing that. I'm like, no.
I know, right?
If they just added content to one game mode.
Yeah.
You would get people playing the game that just commit to that mode, right? And want to continue to build like most roguelites, right?
Yeah.
And then, maybe some people lather a bit more or, do you just get more people playing Hearthstone, I think.
You could still integrate the themes of the expansions into these new releases as well too, so I agree. Like they could have like segmented it a little bit, how they release and publish, this whole new expansion stuff. But instead, they're still trying to keep it all as like a giant bundle of DLC type, just all in one thing. So
and very separate at the same time, though, right?
yeah.
Because if you look at the solo adventures on your Hearthstone client now,
Yeah.
a long list.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a super long list, and you don't go back and play any old ones,
oh right, once it's done, right?
Yeah,
And that's the thing. Once this expansion's done, once people have cleared this last swing, most aren't really going back. Whereas if the next expansion just added more content to the runs you would do, and you could keep building on it, well, you'd still be using this content and the new content and so on. But
so what's interesting? This is kind of like a little bit off topic, but so with the solo stuff, like there's talk now, right, that Overwatch 2, there was the whole canceled StarCraft 2 or StarCraft shooter, just like for the 100th time, like it's being canceled. But it was revealed that they're working on like an Overwatch 2, and people are thinking that it's probably going to be like some kind of solo Overwatch, as a separate game. And it kind of made me think that, I wonder if they should do that with Hearthstone. Like I've always been a huge proponent of re-releasing Hearthstone, like as a version 2 or Hearthstone 2 or something like that. But I feel like the solo thing is something. I mean, there's just so much breadth that you could.
See the Mike Dene thing?
Oh no, I didn't see it. What did it say?
Oh, let me find it. Apologies for the key.
Yeah. What did he say something about it?
I queried this because it looked fishy, but apparently. It's my god! It must be on Hearthstone. Apparently, it's legit. So,
really,
apparently, Mike Dene. Let me just double check this for fact check. Did a stream with his daughter.
Okay.
And they discussed Hearthstone. Oh my god, where is it? And they discussed Hearthstone thing. And one thing that was discussed, is that stream info. I guess I'm searching random things trying to find the. Here we go. Everything I gathered from the stream with Mike today, 4 days ago. Right, so this is some highlights. I'll link it you so you've got it. But
okay, let's see.
There you go. So I'll read some of these bullet points that were apparently discussed on stream. So it's super weird, but no one said it's incorrect. Okay. New classic cards are going to be announced in a few weeks.
What?
There'll be more in-game shop skins for real money in the future. They're working on cosmetics and are open to ideas. Something about Big Priest. We don't care about Big Priest. There'll be more cards. They're planning on more cards that work like Reno, but for more classes than Mage, Warlock, Priest. So one-offs, like Kazakas. Blah, 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 blah. Something about chickens. There's a plan for changing or updating some of the animations in the Golden Classic cards.
Yeah.
They'll see a better deck copying feature and maybe better deck sharing with your in-game friends. Great. What else? So about Harrow Setting Sun is going to be nerfed. You know more about that than me because it's still out.
Okay, sure.
And an upcoming set will see a card that can make your Pogo Hopper 45/45 easily.
Okay.
So here's some stuff, and there's all these upvotes. So this looks, and there is links to the stream as well that he did. So it seems legit, but the new classic cards is nuts. Right?
Well, I mean, so no question that they're doing amazing things in terms of changing and adding stuff, and I feel like we're hitting that point that I remember StarCraft 2 hit. It's just like as it was. I mean, this is way worse than StarCraft 2 because once it was not as nearly as popular and everything started going well. In terms of just the team and everything they were doing, and so we're at least hitting that mark earlier with Hearthstone. But for me, the reason why I think we need or the Blizzard needs to release Hearthstone as a second version is purely a marketing thing. It's purely a way to reset just what is the typical cycle of games. It's once it's released and DLCs come out, it never reaches the height of when it's released. The height of gameplay and hype and everything is after a release.
So my question is, would it be more Hearthstone 2.0 with all cards getting not wiped, but say all cards go to Wild and there's a completely fresh and new classic and standards? I mean, because I think releasing a new game would be a problem because everyone's just like for example, Magic doesn't release a new game; it just releases new rotations and sets, right? And new core sets, which I think is the big deal. Like a new core
It
set.
does. I mean, this is like the big taboo thing, right? Because, or not taboo, but this is the big thing that people won't touch, which is like, we spent all this money on this game, and the whole community is going to revolt if all this stuff just becomes a non-factor anymore. I don't actually think that will happen. Like, I think that, sure, people will be pissed off in the beginning, but you know what? They'll be so happy that there's a new game that they won't care. Like, they'll, it's not like any of these cards are worth money anyways. You know what I mean? Like right now, we've just been spending money on DLCs. That's all we've been doing.
Right.
And they'll still exist as Hearthstone 1. It's not like they're dead. It's just, it's not.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it's like, do they keep the Hearthstone 1 servers going?
Probably.
And then, so my problem is, if Hearthstone 2, this is the issue with card games, right? And the evolution of card games. If Hearthstone 2 was released, what difference would it be from Hearthstone 1 apart from new cards?
Well, obviously, so of course, what comes with Hearthstone 2 is you better have tournament mode. Like there better be giant features that come along with it, right? But my point is that, all these things like adding, all these things aren't like giant things, but just the notion of continuing with a single game doesn't ever reset the downtrend of the attention that the game goes. Like Hearthstone will never reach its height again unless it's re-released again. Like that's my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it will ever reach it.
I think, for example, we could talk about tournament mode for years, but if they implemented a tournament mode which was a smaller scale, like you could get it done in a few hours, sort of thing, into the game, then that would actually blow the hype up quite a lot. Because you look at even the streaming numbers when Heroic Tavern Brawls are live, which is semi tournament mode, a very small aspect of it. But I don't know. It's
still one of these things where you still have historic experiences. Like people still have historical experience that were probably negative, and that's why they left in the first place. Right. And so yeah, even if something comes back, they still have these reoccurring negativity that will come up. And the best way to do it is just to wipe it clean, and just like come out with something new. Here's the thing. This is like a card game, but it's really not anymore. This is like this is a digital video game at this point. Like Hearthstone, I think we've had that trouble with genres, like really viewing it like Magic when it's not. It's a video game. We spend more than we spend on like, some of our other video games, but it's still in the end really positioned that way. So, and that's why I don't feel like it would be as devastating as everybody thinks if they came out with a new one. Everybody would just be super happy to have a brand new game that everybody else, in the video game industry, like would be super hype about. And, Hearthstone would be the shiny thing again, and I think that's the only way we get there. Like I don't see them changing it enough. I mean, just look at Dota Underworld, just look at TFT and all these things. I mean, they're not nearly as sophisticated as Hearthstone, right? But it's like the big thing right now, and everybody's playing. Like literally everybody from all the game communities are playing that game right now, and you can't really achieve that unless it's released as something new. Yeah, but anyways, I feel like I'm the only person that thinks that. So it's a hard
sell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard sell because it costs a lot of money to do. That's why I don't think they'll ever do it. But I'm definitely hopeful. Hopefully one day. So yeah. Anyways, Wing 5 guys, go and get it. It's still, again, we were just talking about it. It's definitely worth it. Like there's definitely no reason not to buy it if you're gonna just buy packs, or if you don't have like all the cards and everything already, because you're getting great value for how much you pay for it. And I guess let us know too. Playing Paladin and Warlock, by the way, I didn't get a chance to play Paladin, but I played Warlock. Warlock was super fun. Just the hero power by itself is great. So, but anyways, overall, I know you weren't a huge fan of it, the whole thing, but it's definitely a step better. Like they definitely progressed, in terms of this expansion.
You would sell it to me?
Yeah. What?
You could play offline.
Yeah. Playing offline is definitely
that would be
step. Yeah.
That would be my playing go-to then. I would play all the single player content in the world if I could play Hearthstone offline and just play that. Like
there's really no reason why it can't be offline.
I don't know enough about apps and
I mean,
stuff,
it would make
like
it would
technical
make the
side,
game
but
bigger. Like the game would have to be bigger because then you'd have to have like, yeah, the game would be a
it
little bit
wouldn't
bigger.
stream
Yeah,
the stuff, right?
yeah. But in terms of the adventure mode, it does seem like it like nothing super consequential is
And it would
hitting
be
the server.
fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
You get on a plane, a few hours to kill. I'll just do a
yeah,
run. I'll be
absolutely.
sick.
Yeah, yeah, totally in line with what I think how users would play
Yeah.
or play adventure mode. Period. Okay, well, why don't we move on to talk about some meta? We haven't talked about meta forever like on this show, so I figured we would probably just touch on it a little bit today, given that we haven't touched on it in a while. And so, kind of looking at the meta for rank 5 to legend, I got Control Warrior, like I kind of mentioned in the beginning. Control Warrior is back on top. Has a lot to do with just aggro decks, just making a comeback as well. Like Murloc Shaman was like super good for the last few weeks, and
Don't trust that deck list below Murloc Shaman. It's terrible.
Secret Hunter, this one?
Honestly,
is it
it's so
terrible?
bad.
Okay.
It's only good because people don't understand how to play around secrets on ladder. That's literally. I'm being serious.
Yeah, I mean, you can just sit and do nothing, right? And you're
Yeah,
probably
just
gonna be
don't let them play. And then
exactly.
they're playing a 1/2, a 2/3, and a 2/4 in their deck, and that's it. That's
true.
all their minions. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Zolgin does nothing.
That's true. Now the Meg Hunter is a million times better than that. Like I'm surprised even the percentages are like not even that far apart. That's crazy. But yeah, Zoo's actually doing decent. So. Anyways, Control Warrior making a comeback mostly because of the rise of these other decks
Right.
as well. So this Hooktusk Rogue, after the Rogue got so many nerfs, I was really curious about this deck, and so I played a little bit of it. It's a pretty interesting deck. Like this is the one I played. This 57.9% one. Actually, why does it say I don't have these? It's weird. Okay. I must not be synced or something with Aces Replay right now. But yeah, so have you played this deck at all, or have you seen it? Like,
I've definitely seen it. I've not
Yeah.
played tons of it, if I'm honest. I've been playing some of the other classes recently, but
Yeah.
and I've been playing some of the Shark Rogues and stuff like that. If I'm honest, my last few weeks has been GM lists.
Yeah.
What to play this week, and I have to just jam as many GM games
Yeah.
as I can because I have to
Totally
learn
makes
it in like a day. So
Yeah, totally makes sense.
it's kind of insane. But yeah, I am aware of this list.
Yeah, I mean, this card has always been good. I mean, I think everybody's thought the Hooktusk was good, even just when everybody was reviewing it. And it's just like Rogues has so much stuff that nobody's even considered playing Hooktusk. So now that they've nerfed, at least 2 or 3 really key cards, like it's given some room for more of Hook, or at least Hooktusk to be played. And so yeah, this card, I mean, you get 3 pirates and you give them all rush. I mean that's like amazing. I mean, you summon 3 pirates and you give them rush. So like summoning amalgams and even henchman and burglars, and I mean just basically all of these things are pirates like right here. So
The game is very board centric right now, and Rush is
crazy.
good.
Yeah, board centric, and if it's like Controller, you just got to get as much pressure on them, as quickly as possible too. So, pretty fascinating deck. I'm curious if it's gonna if it's resilient enough, to last through a couple changes. But
I think as well, it's a nod to what you were saying earlier about Control Warrior. Is if you look at this list, it runs Mecharoos,
yeah,
Underbelly Fence, and as well Snipstat, which you can just put in any deck. Also, as well, the Nightmare Amalgams. All of these cards actually fight for early game board really well.
Yep.
And then you finish the game by just playing too much stuff for 8 mana.
Yeah.
Right. Like you just play 8 mana and just summon like 4 minions or something. It's insane. Yeah. So I think this is also just a nod of how ladder looks right now, because Rogue can do well versus aggro, but with the late lean towards everyone's playing Pogo and even Shark Rogue, sometimes you just die.
Yeah.
Whereas this list is way more reliable against a full field as opposed to a narrow field.
Yeah. It kind of feels like an old school hunter deck, minus the spells. Obviously, Rook has some powerful spells, but the minions themselves, they're just
Curve
like, yeah, exactly. Curve mode. They're pretty beefy and they tend to stay. And then at the end of the game is where, you have the really big plays. Throw a bunch of stuff on the board. It kind of feels mageist, in that way, because you can get a crazy treasure that does it, or you can hook Tussus at the very end.
And quite simply, Vendetta is just a hell of a card.
Yeah, free. Yeah.
Like 0 mana killer thing.
Exactly.
It seems like a solid
Pretty
card.
nice. Yeah. So Rogue's still good, guys. No surprise. Rogue, you're gonna have to nerf a few more things before Rogue really takes a hit here.
I will say though, the meta's super varied right now. You can play almost
is.
anything on ladder, and it's fine. And there are funny points with that, right? Because at different times in Hearthstone's history, people complain about matchups that are too one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the past, people won't remember much of this, but there's also been complaints where there's too many matchups that are 50-50.
Right.
So it's like, so right now, you could play anything on ladder, and it's probably just as good as anything else, which gets a little bit weird.
No, it's not weird, actually.
And then that's almost like doesn't matter what you queue on ladder. Just play what you want.
No, it's just who's actually a better player. Like who's better at playing the matchup that that you've been given. And that's actually good. That's what we all want.
People complain about that sometimes, Chanman. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean,
because people take the mindset of if all the decks are even, then it just doesn't really matter what you queue. And then there's no edge you can gain by choosing X deck. Honestly, I've heard these. I don't agree, but I've heard these complaints. Is that people can't gain an edge by picking a certain deck, so they get upset.
Yeah, but so if you simplify it to just a 50% deck, obviously there can be nuances of what those decks are,
of course.
And they're probably complaining about that more so than they are just the winning percentage. Because I think in an ideal world, we do have multi-flavored decks that require different types of play that end up being, on the grand scheme of all the levels, 50%, based on, just how well you play, how well you navigate it, right? So. As long as every single deck has the ability, to win, I think that's when the piloting is the key, and that's when Hearthstone becomes very exciting, like to talk about and skillful and everything. So, yeah, I'd hate for people to complain that's 50% and like we get, like what do you want, polarization? No, I don't want polarization either. It's like,
no, honestly, that's just literally what it feels like sometimes. Yeah, it's like, I will say that it's cool that you can just play whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Right now,
you just play. Honestly, you queue whatever you want, and you're fine.
Yeah.
And that's just.
Well, I mean, you can be like. So I've been playing Control Shaman some too, and Control Shaman does, better than 49% for me. That's for sure. So there is mastery in some of these decks too.
What's a deck I really liked that I didn't think I would when I saw it? Mech Paladin.
Really? Like Mech Paladin?
Good. I like that deck, and I can't even tell you why. It's like, because it's a deck I don't think I would like if I got shown it, but I played it. I'm like, oh, this deck's good because I started to learn how to play it. I mean, a lot of people try and curve, and that is the correct way to play that deck. Like, you draw a lot of cards, then you buff them and make them cheap, then you make one stupidly large thing, or sometimes a few large things, depending on the matchup, and just kill them. And I think, like, when I see people try and play this deck, like, almost on curve, it's like, no! Stop! You're making a lot of small things when you can make a lot of big things later.
Galvanizer. You should be reducing like 6 cards with Galvanizer. Like it should be ridiculous.
You don't play this on curve to reduce your next play.
Absolutely.
In a lot of matchups before someone's like, well, in this one you do this. It's like, well, yeah, but yeah, like this is a deck I just didn't think I'd like, and then I started playing it. I was like, wow, punching people for like 28 is fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have sticky minions, and you've got magnetic minions, it's pretty good. It's surprising.
That's how satisfying the animation and sounds are in the game.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the one with a very large minion. Yeah. So either play this deck or play Rogue.
Oh, you play Rogue? Okay.
Yep.
It's funny that Murloc Shaman's finally hit it. Like Celissa was on like last show, and I mean, she's done really, really well with the Murloc Shaman. And it's like, I'm actually happy. I'm actually really happy that there is a deck like this, just to, just
good old aggro deck.
Yeah, you need this to balance things. So I'm actually happy that this finally is good. After
it's one of the reasons a lot of people. So people complain about Boom, right? And have been for a long time. That's nothing new. Mm-hmm. But one of the issues is that if they removed, not removed, although some people want it to be, if they removed or heavily nerfed Boom, then Warrior gets significantly worse. which means aggro would just run rampant. There's only Warrior really keeping aggro in check.
No, I mean, I think Warrior's still good against aggro, even without Boom, though. It's just it just sucks.
But the
more
problem
against
is
the other matchups.
it would also get wrecked by all the other matchups
Right,
if it
right.
didn't Boom, which means that the deck overall sees less play, right? Because it's less well-rounded.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like,
Because if you played Warrior and you could only beat aggro,
yeah,
you'd lose a lot more. Is
yeah,
my point, right?
yeah, you
Which
would,
means
but
you Warrior less, which
Right.
means aggro would do better because there's less Warrior on ladder
True,
and so
true.
on. So I'm talking very broad, of course.
Yeah.
But I do think Warrior is one of the few classes right now that can beat up on aggro. I think a lot of other classes can't consistently, and I would worry that if Warrior got nerfed, I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah.
This
I mean, Warrior
game got
beats
very
aggro.
fast all of a sudden. Like,
Right. I mean, you're talking like 70-80%, type of win percentage against aggro the Warrior does. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it would potentially get out of control. But yeah, so the meta's looking good. The meta's in a good spot. We still got, about, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks until maybe 3 weeks until we start seeing announcements, for the upcoming release. So, they've done a great job bridging this time around. I mean, I hope every expansion, like in between expansions, is like this one, because this one was they did a really good, really good job spreading out. Obviously the solo adventure from the actual release, and then they had buffs, and they had nerfs. I mean,
it cast like 3 metas in 3 weeks.
I know.
The only thing I wish was after the rogue nerfs originally, I wish there was like 1 more week of that meta, and then we had buffs.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more, like just held off just a bit longer, like 2 weeks of the rogue nerf meta into the buff meta would have been great, instead of 1 week of the rogue nerf into the buff straight away.
In terms of the buff, like, what have you noticed has been the big one? I mean, obviously Galaxy was a big one. Like, have you noticed any of the others like really hitting or really affecting? Paladin? Okay, yeah.
It basically built Mech Paladin, right, and made Holy Wrath better. And also as well, there are sideways things, like, so Shaman gaining the extra health on what's his name is insane. Yeah. But also some sideways ones because of the amount of Warrior I've been casting, the buffs to the mechs are actually significant. Or I've seen the Sentry being 6 health. That's a whole extra 2-3 sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also the Beryllium Nullifier, just hitting that bit harder.
Really?
And then you magnetize it. It just hits a bit. It's not massive, but it's just a bit more. And you see it a bit more consistent.
I don't even think I've seen a Beryllium Nullifier since the...
You have not watched as much Warrior as I have.
I guess I need to watch more Warrior then.
Yeah, just watch more GM.
Sure.
But yeah, I think overall, the one that really whiffed was everyone thought Necromechanic was going to be mind-blowing, and the Hunter package just doesn't quite support that. But,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Luna's Galaxy was sick. Even Murloc Shaman, or Shaman in general, I was playing the token one, and having the cheaper Stormbringer was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the buffs were solid, because one thing I didn't want to see was the buffs just make those cards the nuts.
Right.
Across the board. And all those cards just get played in every deck now. Because then that's a bit like, I could buff cards to make that happen, and I'm bad. Like, I could make cards overpowered. Right. Yeah. But I think the buffs were like, you know what? Okay, some of them were really powerful, some of them were just made more powerful than they were. Sounds good to me.
Well, I mean, I think the ones that you see are the ones that were already good and they made more powerful. So, I mean, there is something to that. I mean, they did take a lot of weak cards and just made them better. But, like the Shaman one was already good, and then they made it better. I think Galaxy was on like probably on the fence, and then obviously one cheaper is obviously going to make that one over the top. Same with the Paladin one. I think it was already pretty close, and then
the Paladin one was good.
Yeah, it was already good.
The Paladin one got made into the nuts. Like, that is an exceptional card. Like, that is insane. Yeah, but anything that sees cards that weren't getting played see play, like, I'm normally down with.
Exactly. So yeah. Anyways, great. It's definitely pretty nice to be laddering right now. So hopefully you still got like 11 days or so. Play some more ladder. Okay, well, why don't we move on to, I think we can get into some questions. We can talk about some TFT and do it under alerts. Before we do, I want to thank some of our patrons who are the ones that support the show, our main contributors, and, want to obviously spend some time each and every show just to say thank you to those folks. So I'm just going to name a few. We just name a few each show. So if you don't hear your name, you'll definitely hear your name in the upcoming shows. Big shout out to Ray Dan, Bryce L, Devin Y, Scott L, Grant A, Peter V, Greg S, Richard G, Chris C, Zach M, and Evie. And if you're interested in helping support the show, you can go to patreon.com/valuetown. It's usually right here, but I still haven't made a 2-man like browser window. Like I need to really do that. But you can contribute to our Patreon there. That would be we'd be very appreciative of that. Okay, so viewer Q&A. We got Ahmed, of course, our regular question. He says, what should Blizzard do to build its WoW competitive community as the top 200 legend tournament isn't cutting it anymore? It isn't cutting it anymore? I didn't even watch. I mean, was there one recently? I didn't even know if there was one recently because I might have missed it. I mean, what can they do? I don't know. Are you interested in Wild competitive right now? I don't know.
I've dipped in now and again. What I would be, okay, this is what I would want. I called this for Arena many months, maybe even years ago at this point. And again, I think it would be cool if competitive Wild in some way, or Wild itself maybe, but then people get upset about cards like they always do, if it was made like Arena is now. In that Wild is, so for a couple of months, this, and this expansion.
Oh, yeah.
And then a different month, this. Yeah, they did it with Arena, and I think it's gone down pretty well overall because like the Arena rotations at least keep it fresh. And I think my issue with Wild was I played Wild competitive a couple of years ago when the first Wild major happened, or the Wild qualifier.
Right.
And it was kind of fun. But the problem I had was once I'd learned it, it's not going to change for a while. And also the overall archetypes at least used to roughly stay the same, even after an expansion. Because that expansion happened, you just added like, oh, this one card's good.
Yeah.
So you put that in the list and that's it. So for me, I don't know if Blizzard needs to support Wild to an extent of a second competitive format. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I don't think enough people care about Wild, unfortunately. And that's just the way it is. Because you got to think, ton of Hearthstone players now don't even know what cards were in Naxxramas. Never mind. That's just true, isn't it? But I think if they did something where, okay, this season it's these expansions, boom, figure out the meta. Yeah. And then, the next season, boom, figure out that meta. Like, that would get sick. Like, I would be very interested. I know a lot of players would be. But for me, outside of a few tournaments that they run, yes, it's always nice to run bigger, better, more money tournaments for all formats. But in terms of realism, I don't really know if they want to do more, and I don't know if they should, to be honest. There isn't as many people who play Wild competitively, even remotely competitively, and so many viewers now and people who play Hearthstone don't even remember the expansions from the first year. So it means even less to them. They don't even have the cards. Right. Like most people disenchant their Wild cards the second they rotate for more dust for standard. So it's like the audience that are even interested is small compared to everything else, which is a shame, but the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you're onto something there in terms of like they should just use it as a sandbox, experiment with stuff, have it be a limited type of format, and
card gameplay is like working stuff out, figuring different things out. And go and let them do it.
There's not a lot on the line too when it comes to Wild, and I'm not trying to disrespect the Wild community by any means. There's definitely a lot of people who care a lot about Wild, but the reality is that there just isn't a large percentage of people playing Wild. And from a resource standpoint and just where they're going to put it, they're going to obviously put it in their more popular formats. So I think that given that it is a viable, and it is an actual built-in mode right now, like I think that they should try to do something that could potentially help in the future, and I think experimenting with it because it's a live format, like you actually have testers. I mean, we have real people playing Wild every day. You might as well start trying, some new formats and things like that on just the full, just the wild.
And they've shown it now with Arena and stuff that there's enough expansions in history of Hearthstone now that you can build sets of expansions. And then just, it's not like, well, we only have 5 expansions. How many bloody different, styles? It's like, no, we've got tons. Like, you can make all sorts. And also, you could just run 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
Like, that's more than enough. It's 3 or 4 more than Wild's got currently. So, it's interesting in terms of developing and creating a mini meta within a few months.
Yeah.
You do one every 3 months. Like, I think that would make people pretty happy. To be honest.
You could.
And that's in the game.
Right. You could even do some thematical, thing to it too. Just whichever expansions you have, it's because it's some theme, right? Like these 5 have some type of similarities. And
well, they did the mech ones, right? With like GVG, Boomsday.
Oh, right. Yeah. They can do something like that,
so
like dragons and whatever, right?
Right.
So I think that there is some things that they could do with very low cost that I think they should consider doing, because they do need, Wild does need something. It'd be nice. I mean, if it's actually something that they care enough to keep, obviously it's like a main, it's actually in the interface of the game and is obviously a major format.
Cards exist.
Yeah, they might as well, put a little bit of effort to just like spice it up for them.
Yeah. And the way I approach it as well is that I don't know, again, about the technical code inside of it or whatever, but in just creating a block, everything's there, right? It's not creating new stuff per se, is it? It's not doing all this. It's just create a block and create a set of rules within your game.
Yeah,
like, it's already there. That seems like a fairly cheap and easy, straightforward way to create more content for people. Yeah, I don't know about the ins and outs of actually coding it in, but I'm just saying it's not like, oh, run this $80 million wild circuit. You know what I mean? It's like, well, just add this in and it could help out a lot.
Right. Okay, we've got, let's see, Iroglyph in chat asks, is there any stat available of how many Masters Tour participants got married in Vegas?
There is not. Funnily enough, though, a lot of people seem to get food poisoning. I've never been to Vegas. I can't comment on anything.
Really?
I think at least 3 to 4 people that I just saw on Twitter randomly got food poisoning. And I know, apparently, Ray C got one of those, the like IV cure things. I think it's just a lot of it's just like water and
it's just fluids.
He got one of those and said it made him feel way better, even though it's fairly expensive. So I don't know. I don't know about marriages. Maybe they happened and no one told us yet. But I know a lot of people got food poisoning, which is weird because to me, it's with so many hotels and stuff. It feels like that's a place that shouldn't get food poisoning because there's a lot of restaurants and hotels
in Vegas. I mean, in fact, I think eating is actually one of the big things to do in Vegas.
That's what I mean, right? It's such a big deal. I was actually surprised I saw so many people getting sick.
Yeah, it might have been.
All went to this insane restaurant, in Vegas or wherever.
Yeah, or it's the buffet, like one buffet that they all went to, just like ended up being something bad there. But okay, well, there's not any more questions. If you have any more questions, guys, just keep asking them in the chat, and we'll answer them. But I figured I would ask you a question, which is like what your thoughts are on just some of the new games. They're not necessarily card games, but they're new games that popped up with TVT and Dota Underlords, which is it's not auto chess, guys. Like if people think it's just like it's not. It's actually a separate game, and it's actually made by separate people too. So we're treating it like a separate game in terms of like this discussion. So first off, have you played all of them? Because I haven't played TVT.
All but the knockoff ones. So I played Drodo. Okay, so I played Auto
Drogo's
Chess.
The original. Yeah.
So I played Auto Chess in the Steam and in the Dota client when it first came out many months ago.
And that's Drogo now, right? Basically.
I played the Drodo mobile one.
Yeah,
which is slightly different.
I still haven't played that one because I have an iPhone, so it's not on there yet.
It is now.
Is it? Oh,
yeah, I've got it on my phone. Yeah.
Oh, shoot! I need to go download it.
So my issue,
on Android. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the games, but I played 2 matches, and then my phone felt like it was on fire. And I have an X, so like it's not like an old iPhone. Right, it's fairly new. And honestly, my phone was so hot.
Yeah,
I was like, well, this just is bad. And also the controls are a little bit fiddly. But anyway, so I played that. I played Underlords and TFT. Played TFT today on stream. Yeah, it's definitely cool seeing another new genre. The last few years, we've had BRs come out, and now we're having auto battlers. Is the best one I
hate
heard.
that name.
Oh, really? Why? I think it best describes it. Automated battle.
I guess.
Auto chess is bad. Come on.
I mean, auto chess is bad. That's why I think auto battlers is bad too.
But at least like it describes what happens. You dudes battle automatically.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess. I mean.
Anyway,
I guess it's better than match 3 battler or something like that.
Right. So see, there are pros and cons to all of them. There are definitely things I like and dislike. I think Underlords, which is Valve's official auto chess, is definitely built for mobile. I think it's coming out on mobile really soon, just because the way the UI is.
The interface very mobile.
Yeah, it's very mobile game. Although they have improved it already from feedback.
Yep.
So the way they're turning around changes throughout the beta is very quick, which is good.
Yeah.
The item system, best item system in the whole out of all of them.
Not even close.
Depending on how much you know, characters can only hold 1 item in this game.
Which kind of sucks, actually, but it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
Yeah, I'll explain why I like it when we get to the League one.
Okay.
So the characters can only hold 1 item. The items can be moved between characters at
easily,
will,
too.
which is the new one. Yeah. Well, the game's very straightforward and comfortable to play, but also items are consistent. When you clear a creep round, everyone gets a choice. The choices are randomized, so it's out of a tier set, and there's items, and then there's like global. Yeah, so you can get like +1 gold every round, or your warriors stay alive for 2 seconds after they've received a kill.
Invisible or something. Yeah.
Yeah, or hunters have a chance to double shot when they're attacking the same target. Yeah. So it actually changes the way you build your strategies by having these global buffs that affect certain races and certain classes. So it's super cool, and most importantly for me, it's consistent. The team fight tactics, which is the League of Legends one, graphics cool, game super smooth. Items.
You like the graphics? I think the graphics are like crap, but.
Did you turn your graphics up? Have you seen someone play on high?
No.
Because I loaded the game and it was automatically on low. Okay. And it looked like turned.
Yeah, maybe.
So I turned it up and I was like, oh, this looks better, yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just watching people.
And they have put comments out, the developers, that they are improving the graphics as well.
Okay, good.
But it plays super smooth. There's one thing that annoys me to hell about the game and one thing that I love about the League one. The one that annoys me, items are back to random again. You can clear a creep wave with 3 enemies on it and get 3 items or 0.
Right.
And that just annoys the hell out.
That's like that's auto chess.
Yeah, and that also annoyed me in that game too. So it annoys me that it's random. Like me and you can play, we can both clear the same wave.
Right.
Get items and I can't.
Yeah, so and there's a significant difference when somebody has items. Yeah,
the items are nutty in the League one. Each hero can hold 3. You combine items. It's normally just 2 items make a more powerful one. An item stack. So the item from League of Legends that revives your hero, you can have 2 of them on the same hero and it revives them twice. And then the Rage Blade, which stacks attack speed infinitely, you can have 2. So it stacks twice.
Right.
It gets really silly. So the problem that the League one will have is that you can get such powerful items stacked on one carry. It's just like League of Legends. And then they're literally like bang, dead, bang, and just solo your team, more or less.
Yeah.
And for me, it's too much. I would rather the spread that happens in Underlords, that it's more about the team working together than solo carrying League of Legends, which is reflective of the game, I guess.
That doesn't. Okay, so first off, I hate that. I hate the notion of trying to match. This is the problem with Artifact too. It's like I hate the notion of trying to match the game that it's being themed after. It's like, don't do that. Like you're making a completely new game. Don't use like concepts from a different game to affect this game. Because it shouldn't be like that. Like I think that the fighting is like one of the best things in terms of spectating, and I think that Dodo Underlords too is a little bit overpowered in terms of just like the amount of damage that each attack does. Dodo's auto chess is still the best, I think, in terms of just the spectating fights, because it takes the longest to I
think For me, the issue with the items is that you can get some items on a character that just carries your team,
Yeah.
and the only difference between you getting items that powerful and me not is the game chooses
Yeah,
so.
yeah, of course.
And that's just so dumb. That's just so dumb to me.
Yeah.
But there is something in the League One that is awesome. So every few rounds, there's a special round where all the players are in a circle. You have your little dude that runs around. The only reason your little controllable dude exists in that game is for money, to make money for League, because it does nothing, right?
Yeah, it's purely aesthetic. Yeah,
it serves no purpose other than a little avatar you can make look cool, which costs money. But there's special rounds where a circle of randomized heroes, like pieces from the game, just spin in a circle, and each one has an item equipped with it already. And you need to run your character over to choose one. And then each player gets one, right? And they
it's a
add
race.
it to your roster.
It's a race. Yeah, it's a race to see.
The funny part is you little guys that you have to race to get to the middle to grab which hero you want, are in pens, little circles that they can't escape from. And the pens get opened in reverse order of who's winning. So the loser effectively gets
nice.
and then the second from loser gets second.
So it's a way to even things.
Yeah, so the winner gets last pick. And what gets really funny is if you know what the other players are trying to build, you can just take theirs. And that happened to me so many times today where they're like oh, because I'm sat there first place, I'm like, last pick, just don't take my Eve. Don't take my Eve. And they like run over, pick it. I'm like, because they know I need it. So that's a very cool way to try and even up the game a little bit.
Yeah.
For if players have had a rough start, and also punish the person who's winning. But then you can always pick a hero with an item you want and just sell the hero and get a free item.
Right.
Even at worst, it's okay. But it's just like a kind of cool, funny mini game and mind games of do you pick a hero you could do with, or do you pick a hero the person who's winning needs?
Yeah.
Just to take it away.
How many rounds does TFT usually get to?
What did I win one in? It's hard because they don't have a natural round counter.
Yeah.
They go like 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and then 6. So I want to say the game length felt roughly the same. Like in and around. It's also difficult because on release day, there's so many noobs playing that have never even played an auto chess game. They're just League of Legends players. They just got dumpstered. Yeah. I won my first game, not even hard. I didn't even know what the heroes did. Honestly, I was just guessing.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. The hex thing they do, the boards are a bit bigger.
It's better, right? Because you can surround better.
It feels. I don't know. The combat feels better, and I can't quite tell you why. Maybe because it just looks cleaner. I don't know, but yeah, I will say as well. I've not played League for a while, for a year or so, maybe a bit longer, but. If you like League, the characters act like the characters do in Legend. So that is, they're done a good job of representing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a good job of saying, oh well, by what is it? The bug guy, the assassin bug guy, like jumps to the back and jumps on someone and pounces and does a lot of damage. That makes sense. There are definitely some overpowered characters, but the game's
that's just balancing. That's not as big a deal.
But I think overall, another interesting thing is in-client versus out-of-client, because Dota Underlords is a separate game on Steam.
Yeah.
You don't load the Dota 2 client when you play it. The Teamfight Tactics League of Legends is in-client. So you load the League of Legends
client. It's so much better.
Yeah, I get why, because it'll capture more players that are already in the League of Legends client, so on. Yeah. But for me, people are either going to play it or they're not. And my worry is, so if the League of Legends client is down for maintenance, I just can't play the other game. It's like, wait, what? It's like, that's a little bit annoying. That would be annoying to me. I think I prefer a completely separate client because I don't care about playing Dota 2. I care about playing auto chess or,
Does TFT have a bot mode? Like Underlords does? I mean, that's one of the coolest. Actually, I think that's a great thing.
You know what? I didn't even look.
Yeah.
It probably does.
Yeah. Like for noobs, I mean, that's great. It's like super great for noobs. It's the bot mode. So, I mean, there's like even 4 difficulties on Dota Underlord. But So like, let's try to like bring this to like Hearthstone. So, do we consider these games competitors to Hearthstone, like we did with Artifact, or is this a completely separate genre? So therefore, they're a competitor to every single genre.
Hmm. I actually, honestly, for the most part, view this as almost a Fortnite-esque game. In that it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you play personally, everyone played Fortnite. You know what I mean? People from different gaming backgrounds, everyone would just play Fortnite. And same with this, it doesn't matter what your main game is, as long as you have some relationship with strategy-based games in some level, because that's what it is, or even like board games, which is again close to what it is. I think I can see this being a supplementary genre of more hardcore genres, right?
Well,
Because
okay. So
card game players will play this on the side,
yeah.
and League of Legends players will play this on the side. CS players will play this on the side. Like I feel like this is just so much of a second game or second genre for
Oh,
everyone.
okay. So you think it's a second genre because you can say that about Hearthstone for a lot of them too. Like a lot of League of Legends played Hearthstone on the side. A lot of like people when they first came out. So,
Well, honestly, it's so close to a party game, right? It's just Mario Party. Like close. You put 8 people together, you fight each other and try and win.
That's called a battle royale, Raven. Isn't that what a battle royale is?
Chanman, I think we got to where every game is a battle royale.
That's true.
Multiple people enter and only one person wins.
You have to have battle royale. That's like a must nowadays in game design.
But you know what I mean? It
I
feels more like
you can play with friends. You can play with friends too.
And you just play. Because of I think it's a great Twitch game. Because a lot of the game you don't actually have to do anything, so you can just sit and read chat while stuff's going on, and it's fine.
It's turn-based. I mean, it's completely
But I think it's definitely a game where it's like, oh, what do you play? Oh, CS. Oh, I play Hearthstone. Do you play auto chess? Oh, yeah. Do you want to play? I feel like it would be like a connecting game for a lot. There are definitely people who go pro or whatever, because there will be leagues and tournaments. But I feel like it's a very connecting type game because you can get all your friends together in a lobby. You can play. Like I've spent many hours playing with all the Hearthstone pros of auto chess, especially when it first came out.
Yeah.
We all just sat in lobbies together and just played because it's fun. Just sit in Discord and give each other shit for when you're beating them. Like it's just a fun experience. And I think, although obviously people would take the game to let's say pro level, or it's completely its own genre. But I do think it's more supplementary than anything else.
I mean, there'll be a pro level to it, but I still think that the way it's designed right now is meant to be a very, simplistic type of game. I mean, there's obviously some skill ceiling to it, but there isn't that much depth to it. So like, this is like new and shiny right now, but in a year, I totally am on board with like what you're saying, where it's like a second game for everybody. It's just
it's
like
the
Smash
of strategy games.
I mean,
everyone plays.
Well,
everyone plays Smash.
It is, but Smash can legitimately be an all-out esport. You know what I mean? Where I don't think this can be.
Chess literally has like official leagues in China.
It does have leagues, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just don't see it being like.
One thing I'll say as well is that I approve of. I think this is how it's going to happen because of just the way the note says it in the Underlords one, is that it says seasonal rotations of heroes, which is a great way to do it. You don't have an endless pool of heroes,
right? You can't.
You have a season is a month long or whatever, and after that a separate rotation of heroes comes in.
That'll keep it fresh.
So you keep relearning the strategies, relearning the game, relearning the heroes.
You'll have to do that. Okay, if you do that, then maybe there's
right.
potentially something to it. But you know what I mean, though. Like the game itself is, it's pretty simple and it doesn't change. It's not very dynamic at all. So once the meta is figured out, which it gets figured out very quickly, it's like, I'm not sure if a lot of people listening have played these games, but these games generally have like an early game, a middle game, and an end game. And then, the end games, there's usually only a few different types of strategies you can choose, like maybe 5 or 7 or something like that. And so like, usually just choose the one that happens to be the broken one for this meta, and that typically happens, so.
Yeah, the decision making and I'd say like difficulty comes into it is when everyone can't go for the same strategy.
That's right.
Because it's a shared hero pool. So
Yeah,
they're at
that's where the skill is. The skill is just
that's
making
where the
the
skill
best.
is.
Making
And
the
then
best of what you
I
get.
do genuinely believe is similar to card games in that you don't judge performance on one game. You would play like a Swiss, or a group of 8 players would play like 4 matches or something, and then work out an overall score.
Yeah.
Like they've done in the Twitch Rivals versions of Auto Chess and stuff. They were doing things like that where it would be 2 groups of 8 would play, and then the 2 top 4s would play, the 2 bottom 4s would play, and so on to work out an overall score. So I think like over time you would see a skill edge in terms of how you build your teams and how you react to the other players and so on. Especially if you can snipe heroes in League, for example. You can take someone's hero that they want. In that circle thing, like stuff like that. Additions like that to the game are pretty impressive and interesting. But I think it definitely feels like a game everyone will have at least tried and played, and a game you could get a lot of friends involved at worst.
Okay, so if it is not like basically a Hearthstone competitor, and it is just more a new genre that everybody's going to want to play, then is Blizzard going to build one? I mean, why wouldn't Blizzard build it? It has it has just as many characters.
Because they built a MOBA when MOBAs were things, and look how that turned out.
So what? Like this thing would take like 3 months to build. Like it wouldn't even take very long.
It is a very easy genre to build.
Super easy to build.
It's a very straightforward game.
Yeah.
Blizzard definitely should. And the best part about Blizzard is they should just build it like kind of like Heroes of the Storm. Just leverage the power of their IPs, their multiple IPs.
Yeah, I mean their IP is like their most powerful thing. So they should
imagine
totally
you used to have like Thrall and Roadhog on the board. Like that's just cool. Like people would love it.
Yeah, you could have like Farah flying, and like you could have all these crazy things going on. So yeah, I'd
literally
love to
all you need to do to make a game like this is have recognizable characters. Which guess what? Blizzard do a very good job at making.
Yeah. So it sucks to be the last person on the table to do it, but I think that some folks still look at this as being like a competitor to Hearthstone when in reality it's not. Like I don't think it is either. So that's good. That's definitely good for Hearthstone because Hearthstone still dominates this card segment, but I feel like Blizzard's just missing out, on this shiny new segment.
It's also if you go back and look at the small life cycle of Dota Auto Chess when it first came out. Tons of Hearthstone players streamed it and didn't play much Hearthstone. Guess what? Because it's a strategy game, and Hearthstone players like strategy games. And it's one they could play on stream. Yeah. Yes, they will try it. When I was at the Grandmasters Summit, there were loads of the players who were playing. I might be wrong on the exact name, but Chinese poker, which is a very different game to what I thought it was.
Chinese poker. Which one is it? I
mean, so it was like
I'm sure I've played it.
So you had like 3 gaps on top, 2 on the bottom or something, and you drew cards and you had to make the best hand, but you took it in turns to lay cards down. So you put like 1 card down, and then your opponent puts a card down, and the rows create the hands, and you had to make the best hands. It was anyway, but like Dog, Frozen, Bunny Hopper, they were all playing it because it was just a strategy game that they could break down and learn, and that's what they like doing. So it's like, well, yes, they are going to play this very streamable, strategy game, but after a while, most of them stopped playing it. But then the new games and new versions came out, and then they played it again. It's like I don't think it's something that can last forever. The auto chess genre. I think it needs way more innovation to keep it fresh.
Right. I mean, we did see all of them like streaming auto chess for a while, and I don't know if they lost interest in that, because I don't think that's the case, because Hoffa still plays it, and Dog probably would still play a lot. But I think that one thing that we can speak to with GM is I think GM has like created this very mainstay reason to play Hearthstone for a lot of the streamers and players now. Like even if before it was just like, okay, how can I get through 6 hours of streaming? Like I can't play Hearthstone every single day for 6 hours when I've been playing it for 4 years now.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's too much to ask. So it's great to see, that you do see the Hearthstone streamers still being legitimate Hearthstone content makers and pro players, yet they can, they still have the capacity to do this as well, and their communities are fine, and nobody feels threatened, so this is as good as you can get. I didn't think that this was going to happen, when Artifact was coming onto the scene. So this has been crazy. I'm sure Valve has been like shocked at how this all ended up playing out, in 6 months, and they're just lucky. They're just lucky. That
a part of me wants the League one to just trash Underlords, even though there's a lot of things I like about Underlords, because Valve, after Artifact, do not deserve.
I know. They're so lucky they could pivot, man.
My God. It's like, how did they mess up so bad and got away with it?
I know. It's crazy.
It's
Okay, I know. Okay, we won't talk about non-Hearthstone stuff anymore. I know people are getting crazy. I saved it to the end, at least, guys. All right. But that obviously a very relevant thing, and at least try to pull it into the Hearthstone discussion, whether it's a competitor or not. But okay, well, that's going to be it for the Q&A, and I think that's going to wrap up the show too. But always good time, Raven, having you on the show. We could just talk forever, like, about stuff. So we can just talk forever, just call it a show, and that's a nice thing. But you want to do some shout outs before we take off?
Yeah, just the usuals, really, where while I'm home, I stream just on Raven HS. My Twitter's Ravencasts, along with everything else, like Instagram, if you really fancy it. But most importantly, I am flying back to Taiwan next Wednesday, I think. So I'll be doing the rest of GM and playoffs. And remember, for those of you who don't know, the playoffs is the final week of GM, where the top 3 players from each division play off, and they basically will play for a spot in the World Championships. Or whatever they're officially calling it, I can't remember. It's got a weird name this year. Don't even ask me. The Global Finals, something or other.
Why isn't it a World Championship? It's so dumb.
Because we've already had a World Championships this year, Chanman. That's why. Again, don't get me started. But yeah, so most importantly, watch some more GM. It's cool, and also check out the GM Esports website. It's pretty awesome. You can just click on a match that's been played, and the VOD just plays straight away, just of that match.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool. All the deck lists, mind blowing, isn't it? How modern. But all the deck lists and all the VODs are very easily available. So even if you can't watch about 24 hours of Hearthstone a day over the weekend, you can watch it throughout the week. So yeah, I'll be back, and I'll be casting with Derek for the rest of Taiwan, and rest of APAC.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. The hours are a little bit tough sometimes, but definitely we'll need to.
That's why we give you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to catch up on VODs, man.
That's true, man. But I just want to thank you, obviously, for being on the show, everybody, for tuning in. I know we did a little bit later today, and just heads up, definitely going to be out on vacation like the next week or two. So, want to have the show in 2 weeks, but I'll kind of see. I just want to make sure I'm caught up with everything. I'm going to be trying to watch some stuff, like, obviously while I'm out, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to have a show and like not really know what we're talking about that week.
Someone troll you and just says
exactly
it's been released.
It's like,
wait, what?
I know, right? Hopefully, maybe we'll have like expansion talk by then. That'd be great to do it. But just kind of keep an eye out on Twitter and whatnot. So you can follow the show at ValueTownGG, or follow me at ChanmanV, and obviously Raven there as well on the screen. And you can find the show on youtube.com/ChanmanV if you missed any of it today, or want to check out any of the previous shows. And the audios are on iTunes, Spotify, what are the others? Google Play, and soundcloud.com/ChanmanV. iTunes is going away, by the way, guys, eventually. So you're going to need to make sure, you download the new podcast, Apple Podcast app. I don't know exactly when that's happening, but it's definitely already been announced that that's going to be going away. So be prepared for that, because we hate for you not to be, getting obviously this podcast when you meant to be. But that's going to be it, guys, for this week. So for Raven and myself, ChanmanV, we'll see you in 2 weeks.